So here's question A, football salaries. Okay, I've already deleted the rows. It seems what you'd need to do is select them there, and then so it goes all the way across the rows, and then right click, and you should get delete rows, whatever they are that you need. Who gets paid the least? First of all, we need to go view, freeze one row so that the column headers don't disappear when we scroll. Who gets paid the least? Where's the money? The money is over here. So we just go to where the letters are, just to the right. There's a little drop down that appears when we scroll over, and we can just say sort. I think Z to A will give us the biggest to the smallest. Yeah. So there we are. This guy from Man City gets paid the most. Who gets paid the least? Now we could jump with command down arrow to see who's down here. There's a Gavin Kilkenny. Or we could also sort again, but in the other, let's move over. We could sort again, but in the other order, which is A to Z, which gives us the small figures to the big figures. Which lone player has the highest salary? Okay, so here we need to add a filter. So we go to data, create a filter. And so now we see there's little drop down menus on all the columns, which will allow us to filter. So we want to filter lone is true. So we just click off the false, and now we just get true. Who has the highest? And then we can sort. In fact, we can see it's this guy down here. But if we needed to sort it, we could just go back up and go sort Z to A, and there we are. There's the lone player with the highest salary. Who's the highest paid player under 25? So first of all, we need to either get rid of that selection that we'd made for lone players, or if we're not sure where we are or we're a bit confused, we just turn off the filter altogether. Highest paid player under 25. So here's age. So we're going to need the filter, data, create a filter. Okay. And here we can filter. Now it's true, we could just remove the ones we don't want until we get down to 25, but that's a bit tedious. So, or we could just remove them all and just go 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, what was the question? Under 25, 24. There we go. So that will filter. Or we could, if we had a lot of numbers, we could filter by condition, and we could say we're looking for less than 25. Okay, so those are several ways to do it, and now we have all the players under 25. Highest paid player, and then we'll just sort this again, Z to A. Here is the highest paid player. There we go. Under 25, there he is. Now, who gets paid more on average, a starter or a reserve? Okay, we'll turn off the filter. There are two ways to do this. We could create a filter, put it back. Oops. Now that happened because I had selected a row, which is never a good idea. So it's put a filter in the wrong place. So I'll try Control Z. Yeah, it removes it. So you don't want anything selected. If you select things when you create filters, it will try and create them there. So just be clicked into the data somewhere. Data, create a filter. Okay, that's what we wanted. And it's starter or a reserve. Question 5, starter or reserve. So here we are. It's this column that has starters and reserves. Let's just select all the starters. Then let's select all their salaries, and we're going to get an average here, which is 4.3 million. So we'll have to make a note of that. 4.3 million is the average salary for someone who starts. And then we can go back and say, give us just the reserve players now. And we'll do the same thing. Select all of those. And we see the reserve players get 2.6 million on average. That's one way to do it. Otherwise, we remove the filter and we insert a pivot table. So, and we say we want, I think it's status that gives us starter and reserve. Yeah. So we drag that over to rows. I'm going to remove the totals. The value we're interested in, which is always the next thing we need to put in, is the money. So that goes into values. And it's going to add them all up, which is not what we want. We want to summarize not by adding the total salaries for reserves. We want to summarize them by getting the average. There we go. So 4.3 or 2.6. So that's another way to do that. I'm going to right click on this tab and delete that pivot table just so that things don't get out of hand. How many reserve players are on a higher wage than the starters? We're not going to do that question. I'm going to remove that. Do forwards make more than defenders on average? That's kind of the same question, which you can do in the same way. You can make a pivot table for forwards and defenders and get their average salary. So I'll skip that one. Which team has the highest average pay and the lowest? Okay, so here we need to put in a pivot table. Insert pivot table. And we want the teams, right? We want the clubs in the rows. We know we want that much because our question is about clubs. And we want the money in the values. That much is not difficult. But then what do we want for Arsenal, for example? Do we want a sum of all the salaries of the Arsenal players? No, we want an average. We want the average salary for Arsenal players. Now, it would be nice if we could remove these decimal points. So I'll select the column and I'll use these little arrows. There we go. So we can add some decimal points if we need them, or we can remove them. Okay, it would also be nice if we had some commas, which we could do by going to Format, Number, asking for number rather than automatic, and it will give us some commas. It's put the decimal points back in, and we can take them out. Now it's much easier to read. So we've got all this, but they're not in order. We can see actually that Arsenal has the highest because it's, oh no, I stand corrected. You see, so this is not a very good way to, just looking at it. What we need to do is sort this. And so because it's a pivot table and not just a spreadsheet, we can't just sort it using this. We need to go here to where we've said what we want the rows to be and sort not by club. They're sorted alphabetically at the moment by club. We're going to sort by the average of annual, which is the column with our figures. So now it's sorting, but it's sorting from the smallest to the biggest. And so we can change the order here and sort in the other direction. So now we can see the top three for average salaries are Man City, Arsenal, and Man United. And then we can see the bottom three, or we can sort in the other direction. So that answers that. What's the average salary? Okay, that's very straightforward. We just need to collect all of these and get the average salary. It's 3.3 million. However, unfortunately, there is no median offered in the calculator. So what we could do, they're the ones that I should have deleted at the beginning, which of course is probably throwing out all my calculations. So I hope you didn't do what I've just done. Now they're gone. Okay, that's better. Okay, how do we find the median? We can't use the automatic calculator. We could, if we were feeling a bit adventurous, we could order them from smallest to the biggest. And that is 546. And then we could figure out, well, who's in the middle? 546, so 270 something, and find. But it's an even number, so we'd have to average out the two numbers in the middle. None of that sounds very easy. So we'll just use a formula down the bottom saying equals median. And you can see it offers you equals median. Then we have to tell it what to look in, what numbers we're giving it. And so it's M2 all the way down to M547. So then it's a colon. So it's figured out what we're trying to do. We can just click on this. There we go. So the median salary is 2.3 million. So that's what the person, if you line them all up from smallest earner to biggest earner, that's what the person in the middle is making. What age gets paid the most on average? Oh, and what age is second and what age is third? Okay, so we're going to need a pivot table here. We'll go back to the one we had, and we want rows with ages in them. We want to be able to compare all the different ages, and we want the money as the values. And there we go. We could sort then by the sum, and we could see that the age that gets paid the most. Oh, hang on, my mistake. We're not interested in the total because that'll be wrong. Because there's going to be there's going to be a lot more players at age 23 than there are age 17. We're interested in the average here. Okay, and now we'll sort it not by age but by the money figure, and you can see it looks like 31-year-olds make the most. Okay. And if we like, we could even though we're not asked for it, we could select those two columns and we could insert a chart. Not a scatter chart, but a bar chart probably. Column chart. Okay, except now I want it ordered by age. Okay, we'll go back to the pivot table. We'll order by age in the right order. Okay, we'll try that again, just so that we can see how they spread out. Insert chart, line chart. There we go. So you can see on average, they don't make a lot of money. And then these people in their late 20s tend to make the most money, peaks in their early 30s, then it drops off again for people in their late 30s. Okay, so that was highest ages, second and third, basically around 30. What country sends the most players? Okay, so again, this is a pivot table problem. Basically, we need the thing organized by country. So we can put country into rows, and we can put, it doesn't really matter what we put in because it'll just count every time there's a row where it says France, they'll count that. So let's put in name, because we're not going to be adding things up. We're not going to be adding up figures, we're just going to be counting. So that's what we want to do. We want to count. Again, we're going to sort not by the country, but by the count. And we're going to go descending. So we can see that England has the most players, 174. Then Brazil, then France, then Portugal, and so on. And that is it for question A.